All right, Alexandra, let's do a very quick video on a very serious news topic, one of national security for the United States of America, and that is the news from Mike Turner, Republican from Ohio, who revealed that the Russians have or are planning to put nuclear weapons in space, not to drop the nuclear weapons onto Earth, but in order to shoot down, to nuke satellites. The U.S. is watching this very closely. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I ought to say, I just don't understand the technology here. I've had some very helpful explanations. And, in theory, if this could be done, it could conceivably be an effective weapon, or so people tell me. But, the point is that the Russians have shown this has come out of nowhere. There's no sign up to now that the Russians have a project like this. Perhaps they do, perhaps they don't. But there is an actual treaty which actually forbids the deployment of weapons, nuclear weapons, in outer space. It was one of those treaties that was negotiated during the Cold War, the second half of the Cold War, during the détente era. The United States has been systematically tearing up these treaties. I don't know whether that particular treaty has yet been torn up. If it hasn't been, I would take this story as a sign that some people in the American military-industrial complex are thinking of putting nuclear weapons in space, and they're starting a story that the Russians are planning to do that, because I have seen absolutely no sign, not the slightest hint from the Russians that they have any plan to do anything like this at all. On the contrary, all the reporting and commentary about arms control from Russia that I've seen over the last couple of years suggests that this is something that they would be extremely averse to doing altogether. Just saying.
Right. So if the Americans are planning something like this or have something like this in the works, obviously the Russians are going to know about it. They may not say anything about it, but they'll know about it. And the Chinese will know about it. And if they see that the Americans are doing something like this, obviously all of these military superpowers are going to compete in this space area. But do you think a lot of this may have been, or some of this may have been connected to the $61 billion that was going to go to Congress for that vote, as well as the fact that Turner was in Kiev like a week before he brought up this intel to Congress and to the President of the United States?
Absolutely, that's exactly what it's about. I said that maybe some people in the MIC are already thinking of putting nuclear weapons in space, and some people in the Pentagon.
No doubt.
No doubt about that.
I'm positive.
But
there, yeah.
The timing, the fact it has come out now, it's clearly connected with the events in Ukraine. It obviously is, with a $61 billion package, with all of that. So you see, the point is, you might not be able to get the $61 billion because Johnson is strongly opposed to it, and Republicans in the House are strongly opposed to it. You might try and outflank them by that. You might try and embarrass them. You might say, well, you're defending the Russians who are doing all of these terrible and wicked and impossible things. You might hope that will force them to change their position. I think that's most unlikely, by the way. But, obviously it's connected to that in some ways. But, of course, there's another thing, which is that if you can't get $61 billion to send to Ukraine, most of which, as everybody acknowledges, will end up back in the United States helping the MIC. It's basically, a means to give more money to the US MIC and all the various people who function around it. If you can't get that, well, you can come up with something even juicier and more expensive. You stir up a story about, the Russians are on the move. They're not just marching in Ukraine. They're not just going to threaten the Baltic states. They're not just going to invade Moldova. They're going to conquer space as well. So we need hundreds of billions of extra dollars to try to counter that. We might not be able to get the $61 billion for Ukraine, but, that's going to be small potatoes compared to the cost of defending our systems against this new terrifying threat that's appearing on the scenes. So don't be surprised if sometime in the spring, after this story has been worked up, or perhaps even, the autumn of later this year, we start getting more and more stories, Aviation Week and space technology, magazines like that, giving us all kinds of stories, with these cylinders, Russian machines in space, blasting, particle beams. I mean, I'm being facetious now, Russian Death Stars in space. We get all of that. It has to be counted in some way. So, let's spend another $500 billion dealing with something like this. And, and it gets authorized because these sort of things always do. And we're sure this will make America safe. And then, of course, vast amounts of money will be spent. What was it they spent on the F-35 in excess of $1 trillion or something? So vast amounts of money is spent. The US debt levels increase even further. American taxpayers are burdened still more. But don't worry, a couple of people, and a fair number of people actually, become an awful lot richer. The shares of Boeing, Raytheon, all of these companies continue to do really well. After all, they will need it because they're probably going to get a hit when Ukraine falls. And everybody who counts inside the Beltway, who is not, of course, the wider American people, but everybody who counts in the Beltway is going to be very, very happy. That's
Oh yeah,
I think what this is all about.
exactly. Yeah, a lot of people are going to love this new revenue stream. I mean, they are going to love this space revenue stream. The think tanks, the politicians, the big MIC companies, the media. The media is going to really love this
Absolutely.
storyline. Putin in space. We got to stop Putin in space. We mean, that's what nobler of a cause is that?
Yes. I mean, was it what is it, the new frontier or whatever it was? I mean, I can't remember.
Yeah.
The undiscovered frontier, whatever it is, they're all going to be there. I mean, the Starship Enterprise will have to be built to counter the Russian Death Star. One can see it all coming now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're going to jump all over this one. Oh yeah, Mike Turner doing a good job there.
Absolutely,
all right,
yeah.
we'll leave it. Yeah, the Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, and Rockfin. And go to the Duran shop. 15% off all T-shirts. Take care.